Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to our raw reaction review of Knock at the Cabin.
Make a choice.
Always together.
Always together.
I will ask for the last time. Will you make a choice?
Alrighty, Luke. So we are back here again with M. Night Shyamalan. Obviously, we've checked out, I think, pretty much everything he's made. Have you seen all of his stuff?
I think so. Didn't he make Avatar, though?
Yeah.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I saw that one. It's not great. But, those are some dark times. I'm always interested whenever M. Night has a movie coming out. Whether the bad reputation he got in the mid 2000s, early 2010s with The Happening and Avatar and After Earth, those were some rough years. But seriously, I think like the man's filmography before that point and after has been pretty solid, I gotta say. I was really anticipating something a bit different from this film. We talked about it in our trailer reaction a few months back when this first dropped that, this is based off source material. This is obviously predetermined. He's got a couple more writers on board with him on this one. So it's like the potential for this to feel a bit different from your casual M. Night affair was there. Yeah. And I guess I'll start things off by saying that this is definitely one of his most serious films, I would say, in quite some time.
Yeah. You're talking about how you're pretty interested whenever an M. Night Shyamalan film comes out. And like for me, I was right there with you. Like I was more so intrigued, during the first run there. And then as we got into some of the films you named, now I'm usually met with hesitation a lot of the times when his films are coming out because I never know what they're going to be like. It's very hot and cold. Sometimes I think he gets stuck on his twists because like that's his gimmick. And sometimes it ruins the story a lot. Now looking at this one here, there was the whole big rated R. He's going, back to R after, not doing it for so long. And, so we weren't really knowing what to expect in terms of gore, violence, anything like this. But I'll say this film is very story heavy. I mean, you have those light moments like of maybe some violence and gore, but it's not like over flooded with it. I think they make those moments count when they are on screen. But this is very much character development, sitting with those characters and dealing with the dynamics that are presented. And a very intriguing dynamic. I think everyone knows from the trailer, they're kind of saying, it's the end of the world and you have to trust us because you guys have to do something. I think that's a very interesting element that they bring into this film.
I agree. And, I think that really, I was surprised with just where this movie starts, because it seems like we kind of just get right into things, you just kind of really get going. And then they kind of start to lay out a little bit more of the story as the film progresses. And, I was definitely, I said to you, one of the major things that kind of perplexed me about this movie is Shyamalan's known for his trope of, always incorporating a twist. Through everything, there's always a twist. Even in his last film, Old, there was a twist. And, it's one of those things where it's like, you get tired of that formula. And, you kind of think that, every time you go see one of these movies, you anticipate it. Yeah. I'll be upfront and say, and it's not a spoiler, there's no twist in this movie. This is straightforward narrative storytelling. And I gotta say, I need him to do more stuff like this because I thought that was really solid. There's a lot of really classic old style filmmaking here. Honestly, the closest thing I could put this on the level of is like Signs. Signs didn't have a twist. From what I can gather, other than unless you want to count the water. But like for me, I would put this on that level of just being like that kind of groundedness and seriousness and drama focused. And I gotta say, I was pretty impressed by that.
And that's where it's like looking at M. Night's films where For the most part, I think you can really get on him, get on board with him as a filmmaker in terms of the way he builds his stories and things. It's toward the end of it when we really start hanging our hat on the twist. Because, like, looking at Old, I mean, that film, by the end of it, I think there were like, what, 2 or 3 different twists that they kept going with. Just it seemed like the last 15 minutes of that were like, oh, we're going this and we're adding this in. And then same thing with Glass. They kind of kept going and going and going with that. And it's just like, ease up here, buddy. You're known for like one twist, and I think he just kind of got into his own head. And we had talked about it during the trailer review, where we had talked about more writers maybe being able to kind of rein him in a little bit and not focus on the twist and just kind of focus on the storytelling. And I really think that's what happened here, where it was like, we don't need this. And I'm very intrigued to see how faithful it is to that source material. Maybe that had something to do with it as well. But again, like, just looking at the character wise, Dave Bautista as Leonard for me was just phenomenal. It's like, I talk about some of the subtle performances of actors, and sometimes that subtleness is really where you get the great presentation. And Dave Bautista as a subtle actor, a lot of the times, I think he knocks it out of the park. And it's just like, he presented a character here that I want more of.
Yes, I agree. Leonard was fantastic. I think that he's clearly the standout here. I mean, Dave Bautista has been just killing it with roles left and right recently. I mean, not horror, but if you haven't seen The Glass Onion, he's great in that. Very different character than this at all. But yes, you're right. When you get that reserved, emotional side to him, he's just phenomenal. And I think that he definitely is the heart and soul of this movie. You sympathize with him, and you never fully, at least in my opinion, see him as a villain. And I think that's the thing that kind of sets this movie apart from your standard typical thriller, in this sense of like a home invasion thriller. And it's just like it's so unique in that aspect. And I will admit that there were times where the movie was a little slower. I wanted some things to pick up. It had some lulls there for me, but for the most part, whenever Dave Bautista is on screen monologuing or giving his speeches or whatever, I was hooked. I really enjoyed him.
In like looking at the film itself, where you said you had a hard time, you didn't really see him as a villain a lot of the times, and for me, I look at this film and I don't really see a villain. It's like maybe there's one character in that foursome that you can kind of make a case for just from prior activities, but other than that, I really don't see like the villains here, especially after seeing the entire film. And, because I had that thought to myself as well, because, I'm just going to relay one little scene here where the little girl, Wen, goes outside, and Leonard goes out to find her, and it's almost built like this. You're supposed to, be almost scared for her, but I wasn't, and I had that thought in my head, be like, I'm not even really scared of Leonard, because he makes a compelling case, and it's hard to kind of discount anything that he's saying, as well as the other 3 people that he's with. So, like, for me, I think they present such an interesting dynamic here that really kind of keeps you on your toes. You're like, no, he's talking crazy, and then you're like, well, is he really? And then they start kind of swaying you a little bit, and by the middle of this film, you don't really know where to go, and I think that's really the charm of it.
Yeah, and I do think that this movie does fall on a pretty beautiful message at the end of it. I think that, again, this is probably the strongest bit of storytelling that Shyamalan's had in quite some time, in the sense of just really getting you focused in on the characters. Because I loved the little family unit that we had with Jonathan Groff, who we know from Mindhunter, and then someone I wasn't familiar with, but Ben Aldenrich.
Yeah.
I don't know him from anything.
Okay, I thought maybe you found him in something, because I was like, I'm not familiar with him either, I don't think.
No, he was fantastic, though. I was really compelled by his performance, because he's more of the intense character. He's kind of the one that's trying to, push everything along and keep his family together. And, they have an interesting dynamic, but I love the way they all interacted. And Kristen Cui, however you say that, I apologize, who played the little girl Wen. fantastic as well. I thought that they all were very convincing, very emotional. I thought the ending sequences with them were just really they'll hit you hard. I feel like they'll hit me a lot harder the next time I watch this because again, the only thing I gotta say that really took me out of this a little bit was that twist, expecting a twist, and it didn't come.
Yeah.
So, leaving the theater initially, I was like, well, I'm a little underwhelmed by that. But then, reflecting on the movie on my drive home, I'm just like, no, this was actually a really solid movie. I just have to step out of the spotlight there of just like M. Night's going to give me a twist. Like, dude's a filmmaker; he can make any story he needs to.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy to see that it didn't happen. It was one
Yeah.
of those things. Again, you expect it didn't happen, but the product overall succeeds a lot higher because of it.
And I think maybe we had slightly different experiences because, as it's all happening, and I am scared that I'm like, okay, I'm on board with this film, and then I'm like, he's gonna put in a twist in here, and I'm just gonna absolutely hate this movie because of whatever he decides to tell at the last 2 minutes, and it's like, and it's not happening, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and then like credits are rolling, and I'm like, he's gonna tack on some end credit scene here that's gonna ruin this entire thing, and like I was just so nervous for this film because I was like, I found myself enjoying it so much in the storytelling, and I was like, okay, we're getting through this without a twist. And I was like, but no, he's gonna try and shoehorn this in here somewhere. So I had this kind of relief walking out of the theater, thinking, oh my gosh, I just got through a film without a twist because a lot of M. Night stuff. I don't hate overall. I just hate kind of the twist that he puts in there, and I
Mhm.
think he shows, I mean, obviously he shows a lot of great filmmaking techniques, storytelling, everything. And then he just ruins it with a twist. So like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the M. Night Shyamalan film that I've been wanting.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where I got to say a big issue for me with him too is dialogue and like just how he presents characters sometimes. Like I said, with Old, they have a character named Midsize Sedan.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It's stuff like that
Yeah.
that just like really grates on me. Everybody here was totally convincing, normal, no weird shit. It was really, really refreshing. And again, it gives you that opportunity to sit there and just see what a strong filmmaker M. Night is behind the camera. I mean, like, there's a lot of great shots, and the ability for him to, in this day and age, still have that kind of classical filmmaking technique of, just having violence but never making that the center focus. He's
Yeah.
always making the reactions of other characters or just it off to the screen or blurred in some form of way. So it's never takes center stage. It's there, it's horrifying, but it's not going to sit there and be like, a Terrifier 2, which I mean we love, but it's one of those things where it's like it just wouldn't fit in this movie.
Yeah.
And I gotta give him praise for showing that restraint.
Yeah. The violence and gore that is in here is complementary to the story. It's not
Mhm.
just like a showcase of look what we can do here. It makes sense for the story, and it's just like one of those things that's more so pulling at your emotional strings rather than kind of the gore hounding you or looking for that horror element. I think that's where it really adds to it. And again, overall, this story really pulls at your emotional heartstrings because we don't get a ton of backstory for every different character, but we get just enough backstory to sympathize where they're coming from with the element that they're bringing in and, what each person is expecting of the family and everything like that. But then you're also pulling emotionally for the actual family themselves. So it's kind of like you're stuck in the middle of this entire situation and you just want to see everyone make it out, but in your heart that that's not going to happen. So I mean, like overall, I think this film was just so well done. From all the
Mhm.
characters' perspectives, like I said, they give you just enough backstory to sympathize with all of them, and I think the outcome was great as well.
I couldn't agree more. I was very pleased with this. I definitely recommend checking this out in theaters. I think it's a good time, especially right now. We've had such a great run coming out of January and into February. We've got a lot of fun stuff on the horizon here. We got a lot of things with like, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey coming up, and Cocaine Bear at the end of the month. So, to have a more drama centric kind of thriller, horror thriller here was a very nice, refreshing thing to see as we get into the zaniness that February is about to bring us. So,
Yeah, I feel like, we're giving so many positive reviews on things, and we got to watch something real shitty just so we
I
can just
know. Yeah, I was just thinking about that, but
destroy it.
we've had a good run, man. I mean,
Yeah.
like we've had a lot of stuff, and then we got to check out the Outwaters, which we do have a review up on the channel. That was great. That one's going to be coming to you guys next week on February 9th, so check that out. But yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and bullshit anybody. It's like had a really good couple of months.
Yeah.
Like I've
It's
enjoyed
been
these
surprising.
movies. Yeah. So yeah, we'll get, just for saying that, something is going to be a huge pile of crap, and
I'm
we're
sure.
gonna have to deal with it. Cocaine Bear is gonna suck, and I'm gonna cry.
Maybe
Uh,
we'll go on just a drought of horrible films
Oh
here.
no, let's keep it going. We keep
Blood
the
and
momentum
Honey
out of
and
2022 going. All right. But
let's see what
alrighty,
happens.
guys, that's gonna wrap us up here for our review of Knock at the Cabin. Definitely go check this one out this weekend if you have the time. As other than that, like I said, we got a couple other videos up on the channel right now. We got the review for the Outwaters, which is up and great. We also have an interview coming out for that on the 9th, so keep an eye out for that with Robbie Manfitch, as well as we're keeping up with The Last of Us week by week here. We're checking those videos out, and of course we'll have another edition of the Sunday Scaries coming to you guys this Sunday morning. So alrighty. Other than that, I guess that about wraps us up. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.
Your family must choose to willingly sacrifice one of the three of you to prevent the apocalypse.